Next one comes from Sean Curran. And this is in response to the Death of the Kronos video I did in December 2021. Lot of interest in this video. And Sean writes, Korg has had a major flagship workstation since the M1. However, today Korg is the leading major synth company producing solid analog reproductions. I think Korg has realised the market is swinging from those monolithic workstations to a hybrid setup combining computer plus digital virtual engines and analog synths from Korg naturally. Or am I wrong? And a new workstation to end all other workstations is in Korg's future. Winter NAMM, potentially. Well, I can tell you now that Korg did not announce a brand new workstation at Winter NAMM, nor is there any inkling they're going to announce a workstation at Summer NAMM either. This is 2022 when I'm recording this. I'm not sure the market is swinging away from the workstation though. That's kind of my... yes, there are lots of options. I do think there's much more choice in terms of the instrument or instruments that you might use to construct your composition. Back in the 80s you would have a synth, a sampler, a sequencer, a MIDI distribution environment and tone modules. Then came the workstation, and now we have all of the above in a single unit. There will always be a market for workstations. My personal preference or my personal belief is probably more precise, more a correct statement. The versatility of in a single box and the ability to modify features through software in terms of longevity, which is kind of what the Kronos gave you, but it's where Korg are more pushing towards, sorry, not Korg, Roland are more pushing towards with the Phantom concept as it currently stands. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Okay, next question or comment comes from Dirk Keersmakers. And this is in response to what this beast can do. 5 sequences on the Korg OASYS. A video I put together in August 2020. Dirk writes, can the OASYS have a SSD drive? I can buy a second-hand one or second-hand Nautilus, which is best. I'm quite impressed you can get a second-hand Nautilus, I have to be honest. But the fact you can get a second-hand Nautilus so quickly after release may be an indicative marketing of the Nautilus. Yes, the answer is you can put an SSD in an OASYS. I haven't done it, but you can. You need to get an SSD that is equal or greater than the hard drive in the OASYS, because otherwise you won't be able to clone it. You have to start mucking around with clone images and stuff like that if you don't get one that is the same size. And you shouldn't have to go through the re-registration process either, because effectively you are taking the license key that is currently on the OASYS hard drive and you're moving it to another hard drive, and the license key should remain static. In terms of getting a second-hand Nautilus, I kind of guess it depends on what your needs are. The Nautilus is a current high-end workstation, but it's not Kronos. It will have the latest sound sets, the latest generation engines, which the OASYS will not, and is of course still in support. So there are some pluses, but the machine is very new, and therefore there will not be many on the second-hand market. I thought he said he can get one, so I've obviously read that wrong. And they're going to carry a premium at the moment, so bear that in mind. You might consider a Kronos 273 instead. There will be more of these on the market. Will not carry the premium that the Nautilus carries. So it's horses for courses. I mean, this is one of the things. If you are using one of these things in your day-to-day activity, and it's how you generate your income, then buy the keyboard that delivers what you need it to deliver. Okay, if I was gigging, well, I don't know whether anybody remembers a video I did during lockdown, which was all about what are you listening to, and I still do actually, funny enough. I listen to a group of Aussies who do the Keyboard Chronicles, and they get some fairly decent, high profile, decent profile keyboard players to come onto their podcast and talk about, their life, their gigging, their equipment, that sort of stuff. So they do this through their podcast, which typically lasts about an hour. And one of the overwhelming things that comes across when you talk to these musicians is have a backup. Okay, and a lot of these musicians, that you hear them talk about, they have a thing and a thing and a thing, and that's their main keyboard rig while they're on stage. But sitting, in the wings are a duplicate of this and a duplicate of that and a duplicate of that, because they can't afford for the keyboards to go wrong. So they always have a spare. One of them this week, when I was listening to it, was talking about they use a Nord Stage 2 as their predominant keyboard on stage, and they've got a second Nord Stage 2 which came off an Ariana Grande tour, but they had that effectively sprayed white and redecored. But he said it doesn't quite sound the same, but it's still a exact duplicate of what he's got on stage. So if the one that on stage goes pop, all of a sudden the techs just wheel out the one that's in reserve, and you carry on after a bit of rewiring. Now the people who turn around to me and they say about, you take VSTs and da-da-da, and that's great, but it kind of detracts from the musicianship if you're having to try and orchestrate it. If you've got somebody else orchestrating it, then you don't really give a what's it. But if you're trying to orchestrate it at the same time as actually try to play, it becomes more cumbersome, and there's a lot more pressure on you to actually hit the right stabs, etc., when you should be doing it.